Battalion Nation, we are at the Bort Longyear Memorial Gardens for the first ever Troops Trio brought to you by SI Ticketing. Now here's your host, Matt Sookram.
Thank you, AJ, and welcome to the very first episode of Troops Trio. We're so excited to bring you this brand new show. I'm Matthew Sookram, alongside Bob Coles and Ranjan Rupal. We are at Bort Longyear Memorial Gardens, broadcasting on the North Bay Battalion YouTube channel, and every week from now through the end of the playoffs, the three of us will be bringing you behind the scenes, all the news, all the notes, and all the excitement surrounding this team. Why don't we meet my co-hosts? If you've been to the Gardens over the last couple of seasons, you will no doubt recognize his voice. He's the PA voice of the North Bay Battalion, Mr. Bob Coles. Bob, great to have you here.
A couple of seasons, a couple of decades. I've been here since for a while doing battalion games, and it's been fun on the radio. Now I'm the PA announcer, and really looking forward to really getting inside the battalion organization and learning all the stories and passing that information on to folks.
Absolutely. And we've also got the voice of the OHL tonight on your TV, North Bay. It's play-by-play man, Ranjan Rupal. Ranjan, great to have you here as well.
Yeah, it is so fun. I've never done anything like this before. It seems new and current, and I think the fans are really going to drink it up.
Like we said, this is going to be your behind-the-scenes access, #1 stop for all things Battalion. We're bringing this show into the community as well. So this Saturday, we are going to be taping live at FanFest. AJ's going to have more information for you on that in just a little bit. But we're also going to be airing these episodes from different venues around the city. So, Bob, you know, you've been in this community for a long time. Like I said, you've been here even before the battalion moved here, and you saw firsthand that support that the community had from that very first season ticket drive. And this is a show that's going to be just another way for that fan base who's been so battalion crazy for all these years. It's a way for them to connect back to the battalion.
Yeah, I think it's the purpose here of this podcast really is the way it was explained to me. It's like the battalion from 10,000 feet. We focus so much on what's happening on the ice, and but there's so much the organization's involved with off the ice, getting in the community, school visits, players involved in fundraising, obviously the all the on-ice stuff, the games, the scores, the schedule, any trades they make, injuries, all that stuff is important to the fans, but they're really a community organization. They're an important part of the North Bay culture in the wintertime and in the fall and in the spring, and they're involved in so many areas. I remember that first year we were here, and it was, somebody said to me, you know what, more people are in this building right now than at any other event in the city when we're going through that first big playoff run. So it's really a sense of they're a business, they're a community organization, they're a hockey team, and they have a big following. So, but we're going to be able to, the purpose of the podcast really is to give you those stories that maybe don't get a lot of attention but are important to the North Bay Battalion. So it's going to be lots of fun, guys, as we learn about the battalion and the fans learn more about their favorite OHL hockey team.
Yeah, Ranjan, as Bob said, the battalion, the most popular ticket in town from September through May, and having a show like this is just really going to build on that excitement for the battalion even more.
I think you're right, and Bob touched on some really good ideas there. You know, since 2013, I think the thing that I've noticed about this team, this organization, is that it brings people together. And how many times can you have 3,000 and sometimes 4,000 fans in one place twice a week all winter long, especially in this day and age where people are receding into their homes and into their iPhones and not really connecting with the people beside them. But this is a really good community atmosphere here that this team has developed. And it's for all ages. You see 5-year-olds and 85-year-olds at the games wearing merchandise. It's a really good lightning rod for the community to put all their energies in a very positive way behind this team. And boy, do they love this team.
They certainly do, and this team has already gotten a couple of games under their feet. We are into the preseason schedule, so let's get talking about some of that on-ice action. Let's start with the game from September 3rd. The Battalion took on the Ottawa 67s right here at Boart Longyear Memorial Gardens. The Battalion winning 4-3 in a shootout. Ranjan, you were here for that game. What did you like about what you saw from the Battalion on that evening?
Yeah, I liked a lot about what I saw. Now, it was a preseason game, and some of the regulars like Ethan Preseason and Bronson Ride not in the lineup. But from a personal perspective, it was fun to bring an exhibition game to viewers on YouTube. It was streaming live, and that's a first for the organization, and it was an honor to be a part of that. I think that I saw good elements on defense. I saw capable defense. They talk about 3 zones of the game, offense, defense, and special teams, and we saw a little bit about that, even just after a few days of practice and training camp. Lots to look forward to. I think we're taking another step from last year, and boy, that was an exciting team that took Brantford to 5 games in the opening round of the Eastern Conference playoffs.
And it did go into a shootout, and we saw some fantastic saves from Mike McIver. Ranch, you are a goalie by trade. What did you make of seeing McIver for the first time for yourself this preseason?
Yeah, so here's a guy who has battled every step of the way, stepped in very capably for Dom DiVincentis when he was injured. Reminds me a lot about how Jake Smith stepped in for this organization back in 2013 in the playoffs. In that case, Coach Butler pulled the starting goalie because the Sudbury scored 3 goals, and it was a deciding game. But I think that McIver is a battler, and he's got to pace himself. It's just the first game of the preseason, and he's got a long season ahead of him, and I think a pretty good playoff run ahead of him as well. But he brings a calming influence to the players in front of them, whether they're 16-year-olds, first time in the league, or the veterans. They know they've got Mikey back there. And, I think a little bit later we're going to talk about a really positive situation that we have in between the pipes in North Bay.
I was just going to add about Mike McIver. Ken Dryden, who recently passed, Larry Robinson said about Ken Dryden, he always had their back. They knew if they took chances on the ice that he'd always have their back for them. And so that affects the style of play. If you know that goalie is going to make that big save for you, if you know that goalie is going to come up huge for you, and you can see it when he's in the net. The team plays with a lot more confidence, and we saw that in that great run to the playoffs last year and the very respectable performance against the Bulldogs. And I think that's what McIver really gives them. He's so important to the team, and you can just see it when he's on the ice. They play more relaxed, but play with a lot of confidence.
After that Ottawa game, they went down to Midland to play the Sarnia Sting. They handled the Sarnia Sting 7-2 in that game, but then they came back to North Bay that night, got to sleep in their own beds, but then they had to get up early to go to Ottawa to then play at 1 o'clock that afternoon. So, Bob, let's talk about that aspect of their preseason schedule. They lost that game 6-1 in Ottawa, but to go from Midland to North Bay, then to Ottawa, that's a pretty hectic preseason schedule, isn't it?
Well, I know the coaches wanted them to get together and really find that common bond, and they do that. And being on the bus, we've been on the bus. You and me have been on the bus, Matt, and we know what it's like. You really get to know each other and get up close, so you find out who your new roommate is and all that good stuff. But they say around here results aren't important. I know every team says that, but they really believe that with the team, that it's about creating that bond and that style of play they want to really start developing over 68 games in the playoffs. And it really starts on these weekend road trips on the road. So I'm sure the coaches were happy they were getting 2 straight road games but a lot of travel this weekend for sure.
Yeah, a lot of travel for sure. So we had a chance to catch up with head coach Ryan Olhan talking about some of those things and especially about the quick turnaround between those 2 games. Why don't we hear what head coach Ryan Olhan had to say, especially on that. Gerald, can we play clip 5 on the soundboard?
The only issue with the Midland game is we had to quickly turn around and head to Ottawa the next morning. But I think it was good. I think it was good for especially the young players to realize that you got to be able to bring it night in and night out. and some learning in terms of taking care of your body, the sleep, and all those things. So something to learn from and draw from, and now sets the table for a good week of practice.
Well, it is body management. We kind of learned that term from Kawhi Leonard and the Toronto Raptors, load management. But dehydration is a big factor when you're a player at any level. And these are elite athletes. And so you play and have a quick turnaround. You don't get that 8 hours of regenerational sleep that we all need. And these athletes need that for sure. You don't get that when you pull into North Bay late and then you have an early bus ride to Ottawa. Bus legs, I think, were a big factor on that game. But, learning experience for the 16-year-olds that they have to take care of themselves when they have these 3-and-3 weekends that they're going to have.
Absolutely.
And they're going to have those weekends where they get to play on a Friday night, they get to play on a Saturday night, and they have a 2 o'clock game on a Sunday afternoon, and that's 3 games in 3 days. It's normal. It's they got to get the games in, especially on, if you do a Flint-Saginaw weekend or a Ottawa-Peterborough-Kingston trip. You got to get used to those swings, and it's a lot of hockey in a short, and you do need your rest. Undeniable that's an important part of, when you're on the ice, you're on the ice, and when you're off the ice, you better be getting your proper rest.
And Bob, you brought this up, about bonding on the road. This really is a good chance for the new guys to gel with some of the returning guys, see some familiar faces, see some new faces. And head coach Ryan Olahan also had some comments on that. Gerald, let's play clip 6 from Olahan, please.
Yeah. I mean, when you spend a lot of time on the bus, you can, just organically have conversations, hang out with guys, or listen to music, or whatever the case is. So I think it does help when you spend a lot of time together. And then even after that, we had a great day with our billet families and parents and the players out in Callender, and those types of moments where, you see our players playing with their billet brothers and sisters, and it's just fun to be together, get this group gelling, and because you spend so much time together, it's nice to do that early and everyone feeling comfortable with themselves.
Yeah, and that's a key part of it. What happens is what you want to do is not only do you have to get to know, if you're a new player, you have to get to know your teammates, you have to get to know your billets, you have to get to know your billet families. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of adjustments. So the more times you can get together with your teammates and with your billet families. I know, you hear stories about the players. They're a member of the family, meaning they have jobs in that house that they have to take care of. They're one of their kids. So you've really, it's a lot to do, a lot to learn in a short time frame, just a couple of weeks. But I think the team does a really good job of working with the families. So it's good they did that event in Callender, I think, because it just pushes that familiarity together a little closer. And it's a long year. It's 8 months, but the more times you can get together is a great thing.
The chemistry that a team forms starts in training camp, and certainly the players that played here last year and the year before, they have that chemistry. It's up to them, the leaders in the room like Preseason and McIver, Bronson Ride, to create an environment, an inclusive environment for the young players that are coming in. And also we have 2 players from Russia coming in, and they have enormous cultural differences that they have to adapt to in a hurry. And the leadership crew has to make it easy for the young players and the import players to bond with this team, and so that they can all bleed Battalion green.
And that's what goes back, I think, Ranjan, to the type of players they draft. They draft leaders. They draft either captains or assistant captains on their midget teams, and those are the players they want. They want guys who fit into the room really well, work together. That's what Coach Olahan, when he talks about culture, means is do you fit into that team aspect? There's a reason why a player like Ty Nelson was so popular, because he was a team guy too, but they picked leaders, and they made a special point. I remember when Adam Dennis became GM, we've got to pick leaders in here. We don't want a disjointed locker room, and that's an important part of the culture here.
Winning has also been an important part of the culture ever since Adam Dennis took over as GM and Ryan Olahan came in as head coach. And they did pick up 2 wins in the preseason, and they scored 10 goals between those two games. I know it's early going, but what do you guys think so far of the offensive production of the North Bay Battalion? You know, year to year, you never truly know what your scoring output is going to be. You can rely on past performances, but it changes so much in the OHL. But here we are, 2 games in. Within their 2 wins, they've got those 10 goals. What do you guys think so far?
You know, as we went through the playoffs last season, we had a line. It was our second line, but it's turning into a number 1 line for this team, and that's Pazzi between Amadovsky and Wellenreiter. And they've been electric in this preseason, and we hope that they can carry that on into the regular season where it really matters. But take a look at the second line. You have a collection of first-round priority selection picks, 3 of them on the same line. Cam Warren between Parker Vaughan and Ryder Cali. Enormous amount of skill in this offensive roster and also on the back end. But you talk about scoring 10 goals. This team can find the back of the net. It's just a matter is if they can keep it out of their own net, and that's a learning process, part of buying into the program, what Ryan Houlihan has been talking about.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think the key to this team is going to be how these young players develop and the quickness that they develop. The line that you referred to. Everyone's looking forward to players like Moses and Amadovsky. Pazzi came out with a burst of energy in that Ottawa game. Very impressive. You know, it's going to be fun to watch the young kid Cam Warren to play. Ryder Cali, we've already heard some good things about him. Ryder Carey, last year's top pick. The depth on D and the fight for spots is going to be interesting to see who gets those starts on opening night. And, of course, the goaltending, too. There's still 4 goalies in camp. So it's going to be fun to just follow this team. A lot of new players, a lot of young players, and it's going to be interesting.
We want to take a quick minute to thank all of our incredible show partners. This show came together over the summer, and we've been able to get a lot of community partners on board. So we want to thank SI Tickets, the City of North Bay, the Clubhouse at Gateway Golf, the Fox and Fiddle, the Boat North Bay, and the Moose. And as I said earlier, we are going to be taking this show on the road to many of these locations. So we're going to be there live, and we want you to come out and be a part of the show with us. So stay tuned to the Battalion social media channels to find out where Troops Trio will be next and where we will be all season long. Now let's move into talking about some of the players. We've got 5 guys on this team that are going to be heading to NHL rookie camps next week. You've got Ethan Preseason, Mike McIver, Liam Amadovsky, Shamar Moses, and then Bronson Ryder also heading out. So let's pick these guys one by one. Ranjan, let's start with you with Ethan Preseason going to Anaheim Ducks camp. I mean, it's going to be his second time there, and it really is a chance for him to show the NHL club really what he's made of in this second go-around here.
I think the Anaheim Ducks have a real winner in Ethan Preseason. You know, Team Canada at the national junior level has not had a lot of success lately, and I think they need more guys like Ethan Preseason on the roster. They have a lot of skill, but you need guys that are going to carry the mail. And you think back to a guy like Barclay Goodrow, who would put this team on his back the way he did back in 2014 in that playoff run. Ethan Preseason is the same character as Barclay Goodrow. And when you see Ethan fearlessly go to the front of the net, take abuse every night, but he is a master of getting those goals in tight, in close. Where you're going to get goals at the professional level is in close to the net, and you got to be willing to put up with the abuse. He's a fantastic leader and has really been someone who has blossomed to fill in the role of captain for this team, taking the torch, as it were, from Liam Ormsby. So I think the Anaheim Ducks really have a good one in Ethan Preseason, and he's going to turn into a really good professional hockey player.
I agree with you on Ethan Preseason. I'll put as far as the battalion, like they put a lot on his shoulders last year. They had some big injuries in the first half of the year. Romani and Pazzi were down, and Ethan Preseason basically carried their offense from game 1 right through to game 68. Did an amazing job, and you know, for a young team like Anaheim, I think it's going to be really good. I mean, they have a lot of young players. They're developing a really improving team. They've got Carlson's down there, Cutter Gauthier's down there, Mason McTavish, Ethan Procession. There's a lot of young talent, young, physical, great hockey talent. So I think he's a great fit for the Ducks, but he's proven he's a great leader here. I'm looking forward to, really what he's going to deliver for the Battalion this season. One more year, it'll be his 4th year in the league, and he's a fun guy to watch. He's the guy you always watch every game. You never know what he's going to do, whether it's a big hit or a big goal or whatever. So he's an interesting player to watch. But I really enjoy him, and he's been a real leader here since even before he was named captain. He's been a real leader for this franchise.
Also joining him is going to be his goaltender. Mike McIver is going to be down there. Now, McIver wasn't drafted. Huge miss by all 32 NHL teams. But he is going to go back down there as a free agent invite. He spent a couple of weeks down there last year as well. And from everything I heard, the team really liked him. So they're bringing him back, but they haven't drafted him. They haven't signed him to a pro contract yet. So while it's great that McIver is getting this exposure with Anaheim again, I mean, I think Anaheim has an easy choice on their hands. Let's just get this kid signed already.
About Mike McIver, it's interesting. You never really learn about a player until he's put in a real stressful situation. What did the Battalion do? It's not what they did, it's what happened. When Dom DiVincentis went down in the playoffs, not this past season, the season before, Mike McIver was just pushed into the fire, and I don't think a lot of people at that point, because he hadn't played a lot, had the confidence, didn't know whether Mike McIver was going to be able to keep Battalion in playoff games. Well, not only did they stay in playoff games, they rolled through those couple of series, and he was one of the big reasons why. And so, yeah, I think you're right, Matt. They made a mistake, the NHL teams, in not drafting him. He's got to sign with somebody. You know that. He's too talented. So it'll be, and he's, like we talked earlier, he's really the backbone of the team. When he's in net, the team plays with a lot more confidence, a lot more freedom, and he's been just a breath of fresh air since he hit Battalion ice.
Let me just say that going back to that season where he had to come in for Dom DiVincentis, up until Christmas, I don't think he knew how to be an OHL goaltender, and it was after Christmas. I think he watched Dom DiVincentis and the meticulous preparation for every game and in practice and in the video room, and Mike McIver learned from Dom that way and has really helped his game mature to the player he is now. But before we exit this segment, I want to talk about one of my favorite guys, probably my favorite player on this team, Liram Amadovsky, because I like the way he plays. He was drafted by the Minnesota Wild, but I think he should have been drafted by the Florida Panthers because he plays that style. And when he gets going down the wing, he's a freight train that can't be stopped. And many players at the age of 17 take the easy route behind the net. Not Liram Amadovsky. He dips the shoulder and goes straight to the front of the net, and whatever happens, takes out the goalie, takes out a defenseman, takes out the net. But that's Liram Amadovsky, and we're under friendly fire here, so we're going to have to keep a look in our blind spot for the errant puck that comes over the glass here. But Amadovsky's my kind of player. He's going to Minnesota Wild camp, and he's going to bring back a lot of experience.
So one guy that is going to Florida Panthers camp is Shamar Moses. He did get drafted by the Panthers. What do you think about his game? Does he fit into that mold?
I really like Shamar Moses. He came over from the Barrie Colts. He started last season thinking that he was going to be a Barrie Colt. It's tough for a 17-year-old to be told that, well, we're trading you, after he did the whole bonding exercise and exhibition and did a few exhibition games in Barrie. Now he's traded, but he hit the ground with both feet and didn't look back. And credit to the Battalion coaching staff that they put him in a position to succeed, putting him on the first power play unit, putting him with some pretty good wingers on a team that was just sort of rebuilding. And he put up tremendous numbers last season, but I think the ceiling is pretty high on Shamar Moses, and that's what the Florida Panthers saw. And I think the Florida Panthers, pretty good judge of character.
Bob, we got a chance to talked to Ryan Olahan about Moses specifically, and they love this kid. And one of the things that stuck out to me was when he said that they had to remind themselves last year that this kid wasn't even 18 yet because he just played so much more maturely and so much higher above his age.
Well, I think it's going to be interesting to follow with Moses this year is the fact that he wasn't traded over the summer. I mean, last year he was dealt during the season from Barrie to North Bay, and he knew he was going to be with the Battalion this year. He's not going to get traded by the Battalion, so he's going to have that whole season to enjoy just in a more relaxed atmosphere, and the team's a little younger, so I think that'll help him too. He'll be counted on as one of the leaders, and obviously being at the Panthers camp, that can't be a bad thing when you go to camp and you see Brad Marchand and Aaron Ekblad and
they have some good players there, I
Matthew
hear.
Tkachuk and Sergei Bobrovsky all hanging around the locker room. So, yeah, I think he's going to be an improved player, and he's going to come ready to go this year.
Absolutely. And the last player we should touch on is Bronson Ride, the only overager on this team this season. He's going to the Vegas Golden Knights camp as a free agent invite as well. So another guy that you kind of question, how did he not get drafted? You know, he's got the size. He plays good defense. He plays physical defense. But he's going to go to the Vegas Golden Knights camp, and he should come back with a lot of experience and maybe another gear to have because, again, only overage guy going into this season on this team.
You know, Bronson Ride's an interesting case because he comes up from the Niagara Ice Dogs and really got an enormous opportunity to be a leader on the defense. So Bronson Ride gets invited to Vegas in the summer. He gets invited back. They're taking a long look at him because defensemen that are 6'6" don't grow on trees. You can't find them. He is 6'6" and he has nasty. I saw him last year getting some lessons in the age-old art of how to fight in hockey from Matt Marquardt after the practice. And so those are skills that you need to have in the professional game, and Bronson Ride takes those seriously. He is willing to throw the gloves down, and I think that kind of toughness, that mean streak, although he's the nicest guy you'd ever want to meet, but when he's on the ice, makes it not fun for forwards to go in front of the Battalion net or in the corners when the sheriff, Bronson Ride, is in town.
And the end of the year, too, guys, he became an offensive player. He scored a couple of goals. Like, that was one of the more exciting parts of the year. I think he had a breakaway. He scored on a breakaway in a game last year, and the crowd went crazy because we hadn't seen any of that type of hockey from Bronson Ride. Yeah, very strong physically, and I think maybe we'll see more offensive skill as well this year.
You talked about Larry Robinson. That's what he looked like carrying the puck up the ice, was a big bird, Larry Robinson. And I don't know if that's exactly in the cards for him because we got a lot of puck-rushing defensemen, but just to know that he can get the puck out of his own zone when he has to is a really good skill to have.
Yeah, it certainly is, and fans will get a chance to get up close to some of these players on Saturday when North Bay Battalion hosts FanFest, and for a little bit more on that, we've got AJ up here on the desk with me. AJ, tell me a little bit about FanFest this year. I mean, always an exciting time for the Battalion and for the fans to get close to the players and get to see them more, on a level that's not on the ice.
You know what? This is our second annual FanFest. It's happening this Saturday from 12 to 4 here at the Bort Longier Memorial Gardens. It's a good chance for you to come and see our new recruits and our returning veterans. The red carpet introductions all get underway at 1 p.m. There's going to be a barbecue, face painter, photo booth, and a whole lot of fun. There's actually a game that day, too, at 4 o'clock as we take on the Owen Sound Attack. And you guys are going to be there. The Troops Trio will be live at 3 o'clock in the main concourse. What do you guys have planned for FanFest?
Well, we're going to talk about what's going on with the team. We'll talk about, the Battalion are playing in Sudbury the night before, so we'll definitely have some updates on that as well.
Awesome. And then, you know what? The next Thursday, we have the Royal LePage home opener, all at 7 o'clock with a pre-outdoor tailgate party at 4:30. Let's hope the weather cooperates for that. And if you're still not a season ticket holder,
what are you waiting for?
You can get your tickets right now at battalionhockey.com. Back to you guys.
Thanks so much, AJ. All right, so we are looking forward to FanFest, and so is head coach Ryan Olahan. He loves this event, and we had a chance to catch up with him earlier today to ask him about not just FanFest, but also about the culture and the players buying in to Battalion hockey in the early stages of this season. So let's hear from head coach Ryan Olahan right now. That's clip number 1, Gerald, on the soundboard.
Overall, we've just talked about sort of the buy-in factor. We feel like a strength of ours this year could really be the depth. There's a lot of good hockey players up and down our lineup. So with that, you need guys to every line coming at you in different waves. Playing a little bit, maybe different style, different ingredients. We have a lot of different ingredients in our lineup. So, there's a way in which we want to play, but as an individual, making sure that buy-in and that ingredient is there. And then that makes us, I talk about, running like a car engine where all the parts are really in good shape and it's a smooth ride. So that's kind of how we want to make sure we're going here, and that's been the message.
It's all about Battalion hockey, and Ryan Olahan he's a lifelong North Bay Battalion, Brampton Battalion before that. He knows a certain way that he wants his team to play, and he knows how this team is going to have success. Strong back check. I really, that's what it is to me. And when this team is back checking through the neutral zone and making travel through the neutral zone a miserable endeavor for the opposing team, then this team is going to win. And if they are lazy on the back check and you let some of these high-flying teams travel through the neutral zone unimpeded, then it's going to make it tough on the defense, it's going to make it tough on your goaltenders, and it's going to be a long night. Battalion hockey to me is 5 players playing as a 5-man unit, and also that strong presence between the blue lines that can stop the offensive teams from getting going. And we saw what teams like Brantford are capable of doing this year. We expect them to be strong again, and you have to have a strategy to stop them, and it starts with getting the Battalion culture and training the new players how to play into the program, and it's all about buy-in.
I think Battalion fans should, count their lucky stars that Ryan Olahan's the head coach. He's one of the top junior coaches in the country, obviously, having coached Team Canada on a couple of occasions. And he also works well with other people, with Matt Marquardt, with Bill Holder, with the guy upstairs, Adam Dennis, and John Winstanley. And so, but I think as a coach, he's really meant to coach a team like the North Bay Battalion. A lot of travel, a lot of road trips, but also just the style of play, the 200-foot game, developing players to become really good NHL players. Whether it's a Barclay Goodrow or a Nick Paul, or there's so many right now out there. We don't have enough time to the guys that have made it either in the AHL or the NHL. So I think Ryan Olahan, star player, captain, assistant coach, head coach, and obviously some Team Canada stuff too. So, he's one of the big reasons why this team wins consistently. Look at last year. We didn't know what to expect last year. They lost a lot of players. They made some trades. They had injuries, but they got in the playoffs and had a good first round. So, again, count your lucky stars with this Ryan Olahan coaching the hockey team.
In the last clip, he did talk about the depth of the team, but he also expanded on that, touching specifically on the defensive depth. We touched on the fact that Bronson Ride is the only overager on this team, and he is going to be a big part of the defensive core. But Ryan Olahan expanded on that in these next comments. That's clip 2, Gerald.
What's kind of neat is, you start to look at the makeup and how maybe some of the pairings could be stabilized and things like that. Like I talked about the depth. I mean, first pair right to the third pair, no matter who's in the lineup, is going to be very strong. And then you have those ingredients. So, maybe a rushing, puck-moving defenseman beside a real good stay-at-home defensive guy. And sometimes that balance can really work. Not always in a perfect nature, but we've seen some of that chemistry start to develop here in Preseason, which is nice. We haven't had a full lineup, getting some different guys in and out, but it's the depth and the organizational depth as well. Not even the guys that are going to be here, but you look at 8, 9, 10th defensemen down the road. It's a very strong suit for us right now.
Yeah, and they have some really strong players on there that are looking to make an impact. Kent Greer made an impact last year. Carter Kunapowski is going to try to do that this year. I mean, I think the depth of the defense is going to be one of their strongest assets going into this season.
Well, the thing we should add is he's taken on some extra duties outside the coaching box, so to speak. And I think that's good for him, but it's also good for the team that he's doing some scouting now and being involved in that part of the game. And so he knows more about maybe the depth of the up-and-comers they're going to have next year and beyond.
I think one of the things about the North Bay Battalion that we've seen since 2020 is the quality of the players they're drafting. And it seemed like we were wandering through a desert prior to 2020, especially the latter part of the last decade, where some of our draft picks just weren't firing, failed draft picks, in fact. But since 2020, with the Ty Nelson selection, this team has been firing on all cylinders with their selections. And Carter Kunapowski is one of those defensemen that is going to be a player who's going to be here for a long time. He is a player who plays the Battalion way, tough, and makes it miserable for opposing forwards to try to venture towards our net. We've got a good 6D back there, and it's just a matter, and 7 and 8 are pretty good as well, whoever you want to call that. We brought in Brant Harper from Florida. He's going to be a new player, and fans are going to get to know him as well. Sometimes we like to pair an offensive-minded defenseman with a stay-at-home defenseman, but as you look in the NHL, increasingly that's not the case anymore. When you think of a Cale Makar and a Devon Toews, those are both guys that can activate and create offense. And I think we're going to be seeing Ryan Houlihan create offense from the back end where, as my partner Greg Thaberge will often say, a lot of offense starts on the defensive side of the puck.
Two guys that the Battalion are hoping do bring some offense to their game are brand new to this mix. The two import players they picked up this summer, Evgeny Dubrovtsev and Arseny Pronin. And here's what head coach Ryan Houlihan had to say about these two guys from Russia.
Evgeny, just a two-way centerman, strong and hard on face-offs. You can't have enough of those guys. And then Arseny, likes to play the game with a little bit of pace and physicality, and also a really good skill set. So two guys, you insert those guys overnight into our lineup, and it just adds a ton of depth. And
Ranjan, you talked about it, but before we went on air, sometimes it is for the imports, it's kind of buyer beware. You never really know what you're going to get. But over the last couple of years, the Battalion have been pretty good about picking up import players.
So the quotient of European players now goes to 3. Previously, it was 2, and last year we had Iggy Potsy. And as Bob said, he had an injury for the first half of the season. And so North Bay, for much of last season, had no imports on the roster. Now we have 3. And we saw Dubrovtsev and Pronin. They seem to be putting on the same line because they have the language thing going. And I think Ryder Carey's got to pick up his Russian skills in order to communicate with his line mates if that's the way Coach Houlihan goes. But they're going to adapt to smaller ice, different food, different culture, a new billet family. So it's going to be tough for Evgeny and Arseny to fit in. But on the ice, they look like they haven't skipped a beat.
Yeah, the game of hockey has one language, and that's a good thing. And I think the other stuff may take longer to develop. But again, the Battalion have a good program. They really involve the billet families with the I guess the natural families, whatever way you want to put it. But they do a good job with that. And there really is a team atmosphere, whether it's the players on the ice, whether it's the coaching staff, whether it's the relationship between management and the coaches. They really develop that family atmosphere. And so I think when you draft 2 players on a different language, you got to have that because you don't want them to be on an island. You just want to be just part of the family team atmosphere. And I think the Battalion do a really good job in that area.
I think the only thing that Ryder Carey needs to know is spasiba, which is thank you in Russian, because I think these guys are going to get Ryder the puck more this season. You're going to see him fill the back of the net.
That's not a bad game plan at all.
Ranjan's been working on his Russian all summer, apparently.
I've got the app in my phone, the Duolingo Russian app.
Duolingo on Russian. I'm still doing Duolingo on French, so you're miles ahead of where I am. Let's talk about the last area of depth now for the North Bay Battalion. That is in net. We talked about Mike McIver earlier, but it's the guys behind him that are going to be so important to the success of this team. Again, McIver is going to be at Anaheim Ducks camp for a little while anyway. And last year we did see that, when we talk about load management, it is hard for one guy to go 3 games a weekend every single weekend. It just doesn't happen. So goalie depth is going to be huge for the team this year. And let's hear what Ryan Olahan had to say about the battalion goalie depth. That is clip 4, Gerald.
Strong, really strong. I mean, I've been blessed here as the coach for the last few years to really have that as a strong suit. For us, it's really nice going in and night out, and those guys have really developed. So, I mean, it's one of those where we're trying to get minutes for everybody.
And it's going to be hard to get minutes for everybody. That's a challenging because Charlie Larocque had 37 saves, I think, against Sarnia. He was in the game in Midland. Jack Lisson looked pretty solid on opening night, the first preseason game against Ottawa. Of course, we've talked about Mike McIver, and they drafted a kid, Vrugdenhill, who went off to the Hockey Canada camp in Calgary in the summer. So, it's going to be, they've got 4 outstanding goalies. 3 of them have OHL experience, of course, and it's ice time may be an issue this year for these guys because they're making the decision tough on the coaches.
Always wondered how you're going to replace Dom DiVincentis, and they've done it with McIver, and you're not really skipping a beat when you put Lisson between the pipes. And Charlie Larocque, he's a guy who had some starts at the beginning of last season and lost his confidence, went down to Carleton Place, regained his confidence to the point that the Toronto Maple Leafs invited him to their summer development camp. And so that's a big deal for Charlie Larocque to get that shot of confidence in the arm. And so North Bay has 3 capable OHL goalies, and Ryan Houlihan, he counts as lucky stars because, as the adage goes, show me a winning coach and I'll show you a winning goaltender.
Absolutely. Well, it won't be very long until we get to see exactly how this team performs. They've got a couple more preseason games on their schedule, including on Friday in Sudbury. Get that Northern Ontario rivalry started right away, and then they are home for FanFest, where they will host the Owen Sound Attack. I want to thank you so much for joining us on this first episode of Troops Trio. For AJ, Ranjan, and Bob, I'm Matthew Sookram. Don't forget, you can send us your questions at troopstrio@battalionhockey.com, and you can also follow us all year long on the Battalion social media channels. Thank you so much. Have a great night.